The whole ball of wax at LaunchpreneurAcademy.com is a $4,000 value that is yours for only $1,499. However, when you apply the code SPRINGRUSH at checkout, that's all one word, SPRINGRUSH, we're going to take another $300 off. That's $4,000 of resources for less than $1,200. The special discount ends April 3rd.
You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It is your host, Brian Fullerton here, hanging with you guys, and good morning. Well, as always, thank you guys so much for returning to the show and listening in for what we have to share with you guys today. We do not take it for granted. Well, long story short, the whole topic that I wanted to cover for today was just some real-time thoughts that Liz and I have had with block scheduling and prioritizing things and how we're, quote-unquote, getting things done. Of course, from the past, of course, present day, and of course, how we will in the future, and some of the things that we've learned along the way, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners. Add that to the mix of being, a couple, newlyweds, then married, and then add that to the mix of being pregnant, having baby number 2, building a home, building a barn. Like there's a lot of stuff going on our quote unquote schedule that it could turn into chaos very quickly. And quite honestly, many of times and often it does. But at the end of the day, the idea is not to, quote unquote, fly by the seat of your pants. It's not to just be on this roller coaster where you're just ups and downs and lefts and rights and loop-de-loos, right? The idea is to have a little bit more organization, to be a little bit more of a planning type person. The idea is to not let the tail wag the dog. Whatever analogy that you want to talk about and use. That's the idea that I wanted to just share on this podcast today. And there's really kind of two different things that have really helped Liz and I specifically when it comes to making sure that things get done. And so I don't want to be Stephen Covey over here and be like, hey, there's 7 highly effective habits for people or whatever. I'm not going to be telling you things that you probably haven't heard before, to be honest with you. But what I will say is that number 1, if you don't know, now you'll know. Number 2, if you did know, let's bring it back to the forefront of our mind. And quite frankly, that's pretty much all content that's out there anyway, right? There's not really too many new ideas when it comes to success or business or entrepreneurship, right? And most of it's already been well documented. People have already grown 9-figure, 8-figure, 7-figure businesses. It's not like one day some guy comes out of the woodwork and says, oh my God, everybody's been doing it wrong. And here's my system that makes it work so much better. Okay, like most business has been distilled down to some basic principles and some things that work, right? So we're never going to be, the guru either saying, hey, try this instead, right? But what I will say is, hey, here's some things that have worked for other people. Here's some things that worked for us. And 2 things that I wanted to talk about that have been really helpful for Liz and I. Number 1 is bookends, and then number 2 is block scheduling. And again, you can take it or leave it. You can implement this or not. And by the way, I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. Like, is this the kind of stuff that works for you guys? Because we're always learning, we're always growing, we're always trying to adopt new things and add it to our mix and our repertoire because we want to be successful too. We want to be more successful, right? We want to have more time, have more money, less stress, less worries, minimize, things that we don't like, and maximize things that we love and we enjoy. And so the reason I wanted to talk about this is because specifically, right, for an example, Liz and I are building a home. We should be closing on the mortgage this week. We're extremely pumped about that. It's a lengthy process, as anybody knows if you've been through it. And it's even doubly lengthier if you're doing new construction, custom home. And it's triply, if that's a word, more, what's the best way to say it, frustrating when you're self-employed. Right. So nothing bad, nothing crazy. Actually, everything's like checking in and up to par and we're super pumped. But dude, it is just a lengthy, drawn out process. And anybody who's been through it knows you've been there, you've done that. No, it doesn't matter if your ducks are all in a row and ours are like spotless, dude. Like our bookkeeping, our taxes, our payroll, all this, everything's like where it needs to be. But it still takes, 30, 60, 90 days to get all this stuff moving, especially when you're building a home, like new construction, custom build. So one thing that's really on our mind is, okay, we're busy with that. We just literally signed off on a pole barn build. That's going to come in August. Super excited about that. That is I don't know if I'm more excited about the home or the barn, for crying out loud. But the reality is like, that's going to take a chunk of time. We have the lawn care business. Duh. We're going into the spring rush. We've got 100 plus clients. We're getting new commercial leads literally every single day. Shout out to Brandon Bull Inc. We actually did a webinar with Adam, my brother. And just so you guys, if you're listening in, over 100 of you guys have already inquired for a website. Okay, I think there's 40 customers that have committed that are in the queue, and many, many, many more. So if you still want a website, plenty of time, get in the queue, but get in the queue now. BrandonBullInc.com. That's my younger brother with his ad agency, him and Lauren. They are just crushing it. We did a webinar that we actually shared on YouTube. It was really, really helpful. It was about 20 minutes. It was kind of a little bit of a rehash of some of the stuff that Adam's already shared on our podcast before. You guys have heard him speak once or twice now on some episodes, and also at Launchpreneur Academy Live, our live event in November. But nonetheless, we did a whole webinar. If you guys want to learn a little bit more about who they are, what they do, you can always check that out on the YouTube channel. That webinar is live now. But as you can imagine, we've got commercial accounts, we've got residential accounts, we've got the barn, we've got the house, we've got a baby coming, right? Like things are potentially like wild, and they can, like I said earlier, the tail can wag the dog very quickly. So what are some of the things? Right. Let's think about sustainability. Let's talk about survivability. There's a couple things that have worked really, really well for Liz and I, past, present, and ideally, hopefully, of course, in the future. And for us personally, they're bookends with focusing our time to major tasks. And then also it's block scheduling, where it's uninterruptible time, that's focused time, that allows us to get similarly those big tasks accomplished. Now, the little minutia tasks, the minute tasks, I don't care if it's something that you can jot in a quick email at a red light for 35 seconds, that's fine. And I don't care if it's, hey, I got to replace a taillight on the trailer or the truck, and that's an hour and a half, 2 hour project, right? All these little tasks, of course, have to get done. Shopping your insurance, submitting a commercial bid, they're going to the dealer to get your parts order, passing out postcards, right? There's all these little tasks that have to get done. Of course, number one here, one quick tip, and we'll jump into it. I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear from today's show sponsor. But one quick thing that I read in a book is, it was How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bettcher. And it's a fantastic read. It's an oldie. I think it was literally written in like 1920s, 1930s. Guy was like a life insurance salesman back in like the 20s and 30s and 40s. Just wild stuff. Great story. It's an all-time classic read from like the self-help development. It's up there with like How to Win Friends and Influence People, Master Key to Riches, Think and Grow Rich, the Og Mandino books. If you know, you know. And so one of his things, and one of the lines in that book was, I can get men to do anything in life except for two things. One, do things in order of their priority. And number two, do things with enthusiasm. Like you can't force enthusiasm. That's a within thing. But he said number two is get people to do things in the order of importance or priority. It's like, what I mean is, let's say we're going out to the second week of March, real time doing the podcast. Postcards are an imminent thing. Like shopping for your mower, it's an imminent thing. Like getting your website tailored in and dialed in, and your Google My Business listing tailored in and dialed in. Like those are pretty high priority things. But then at the end of the day, somebody's like, hey, I think I'm going to shift my business card around, and I want to change the way my business card looks because it's been 3 years since I've updated it. Like, okay, sure, not a bad thought. That's productive. That's a good thing to do. Nobody would criticize you and say like, oh my God, you're not serious about your company, or that's a stupid decision, right? Nothing like that. But imagine this, like what's more important? The logo and the business card that has worked. Okay, now here's the thing, like life is a game of inches. Success is a game of percentage points. Every single thing you do, arguably, microscopically moves the needle forward. Right. And so that's the problem, right? That's the benefit, but that's also the problem of entrepreneurship, because some people are like, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And you're looking at micro percentage increases and gains and ground taken for your company. But the reality is is shifting the logo on your business card or changing the color scheme or quote unquote updating the business card, is that juice worth the squeeze when it's all hands on deck? We're ready for war going into the spring rush. Maybe not. What would be more of a higher or better priority? Getting your trailer serviced, getting your mower serviced, receiving your new mower from the dealer, getting your postcards printed and ready to ship and or ready to be hand billed, getting your website finished up, buttoned up, updating your submission form, updating your photos, right? Securing your commercial leads, and following up with your accounts receivable from your snow so that doesn't drag into May, June, July when we transition to lawn. Right? Like, I'm just thinking out loud. This is the stuff that I'm doing, that these are the high priority topics. These are the high priority things that we should be focusing on, because those are going to pay the biggest dividends, right? Frank Betcher said, I can get men to do anything except for ordering things in priority, right? Like, and people are just human nature. And it's tough because it's almost like there's no real repercussion if you're self-employed, because at the end of the day, you're like, hey, things are growing. Sure, that's fine, but we want to be optimized. And of course, we don't want to do this into insanity, right? Like, well, I'm not doing this because I should be optimized. I'm not doing this because I should be optimized. Look, I'm not saying there's not waste or inefficiency. Like, everybody's like that, myself included. But at the end of the day, what I've come to find has worked best for me is focus on the things that matter. And here's a big thing. Focus on the things that matter now, right? No doubt there's things that I need to be doing an hour from now, a day from now, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, right? Like, retirement is at 65 or whatever, pick your date. That's fine. But there also doesn't mean I shouldn't focus on here, today, and now, and next week, right? So people are like, well, I'm saving everything for the future. Well, nobody's promised anything for the future. You should also balance between having a good budget now, living a little now, having some fun now. But if you do that to an extreme as well, right? Let's play devil's advocate, and you don't save for the future, you're going to be hurting when you're 60, 65, whatever. Pick your date, pick your number. And you didn't save 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hundred thousands, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 millions, right? Whatever your number is. So it's like this balancing act. And so let's go back to the first thing I said, is talking about priority here. We're going to take a quick sip of water and get a little commercial break in here. But what I also want to talk about is bookends and then block scheduling, because that also, outside of prioritizing things, what is important, that's the first part we have to start with, because then how do we fill in our calendar for our bookends? How do we fill in our calendar for our block scheduling? Well, what goes in there has to be the prioritized things. Okay, so let's start with number one, figuring out the prioritized things. Those are usually income generating opportunities and things like that for the business, right? If we're just talking practical speaking. Then number two, we want to work on that in our schedule. Where do we find time? Well, I'm going to teach you and show you how to find time. Like, time management, quote unquote, is a myth. Every good self-help book that's been around, that's worth its weight in salt, has dispelled the idea or the lexicon of time management. Nobody manages time. It's impossible to manage time. You don't manage time. You can manage your schedule. You can manage your calendar, but nobody gets to manage time. Nobody gets to stop it. Nobody gets to make it faster. Nobody gets to make it slower, right? And so when people are like, I'm a time manager, that's a code for unfollow, run away, and don't listen to whatever that person most likely has to say next. Now, that being said, be a fruit inspector. If they're like, well, what I really mean to say is, let's talk about block scheduling. Okay, well, now they're saying the same thing, like a synonym. I think that's Kanye. And then what they're really trying to do is probably sell you a course or sell you a conversation or sell you a mastermind or sell you some widget or some product or a calendar that you don't really need, right? To be fair, as a guru that's also talking to the other gurus out there, that just seems like an endless trove of guru-ness on my Instagram feed. Like, and I don't even follow this stuff. I'm not even on Instagram, and I can't get on there without, my gosh, another guru every single day, in or out of our industry. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm like the anti-guru. I don't want to be a guru. You guys can go be gurus. We hired the social media girl. Her name is Bethany. She's absolutely amazing. Liz and I love her. She's doing just so much good work. We granted her access to our Facebook page, just the Facebook page, and now she gets the notifications of the Facebook page. And she goes, we do a twice a week meeting, and she goes, "Is this all the time? All the notifications? Like, does this ever stop? Because it doesn't stop." And she goes, "Is this like what your phone does?" I go, "Oh yeah." Liz and I, like, it just literally to a numbness almost. Like, it just never ends with comments and posts and likes and shares and all this mess. Thank God. All right. I mean, that's like kind of, I guess, the idea of it being up there. But she goes, this is insane. And I go, it is insane. And so at the end of the day, it's very distracting. But a little rabbit hole here. Any which way, I'm going down. I don't even know where I was going with that. Let's do this really quick. Let's hard pivot. If I'm already figuring out that I'm losing it, then we're going to go to a commercial break and we're going to pull this thing back in. Let's talk about things that I did want to talk about, and maybe I'll regain that thought here in a quick second. Marty, let's hit the commercials. Guys, thank you so much for supporting the sponsors, and we'll come right on back.
Unlock your business potential with the Know Your Numbers profitability and pricing calculator from the Lawntrepreneur Academy. Discover the secrets to a predictably profitable business. Learn how to recover overhead, calculate your man-hour rate, price lawns correctly, and budget for profit margins. Maximize your success with the best information and tools. Get the Know Your Numbers profitability and pricing calculator today at LawnEntrepreneurAcademy.com.
All right, guys, let's jump right back into it here. It's funny. Sometimes I even catch myself. I'm like, dude, where were you going with that thought? And you know what? If you've ever been on a podcast, sometimes you're like, and we're just going to delete that file and restart. I don't think we're going to restart because the first 11 minutes of that 12-minute rant was actually pretty solid. So here's one thing I want to do. We'll just wrap this up here in just another 5-10 minutes is I do want to talk about block scheduling and bookends because this is what I found has worked best for me. This is stuff that I've learned from Darren Hardy, who's like productivity and super achieving kind of an individual. He's a thought leader. He's not a guru. Gurus are the guys you find on Instagram. Okay. Darren Hardy he owns Success Magazine. He's a multi-millionaire, extremely successful, very, very intelligent individual. He is a high performance coach for CEOs. I've actually looked into going to some of his seminars, and they're $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. And a lot of that stuff, not to impress, I mean, you or me or anybody, a lot of that stuff is that price point. But man, I'm like, you know what? That would actually be $10,000 that I would spend. Like, I'm not a big, go to certain rah-rah seminars. Launchpreneur Academy, our conference is $249, I think. It's insane. We could charge $997. We don't do that. A lot of the sponsors cover the cost of the event. And so we try to keep that ticket price pretty reasonable. But there's a lot of folks out there, high-performance CEOs that pay 6 digits to get professionally coached by guys like Darren and Tony Robbins and Gary Vee and pick your guy, right? So what I wanted to talk about is stuff that I learned from Darren and just stuff that I've accumulated along the way. 2 things. One is bookends. What is a bookend? A bookend, well, like on a bookshelf, you get those little metal plates and they can be fancier or they can be less fancy, but you can have some little ivory tower or elephant or something, like some beautiful thing and some beautiful home. That's a bookend. Or you can have a little metal plate that looks like an upside down L or T. And you guys have seen them at the library and it stops the books from falling over, right? That's a bookend. So what is a bookend though? So those are on the end, and then the inside is the row of books, whether 3 books or 33 books or 333 books. Depends on the size of the shelf, I guess. When you're talking about bookends for your calendar and for your day, you're talking about that first half hour in the morning and that last half hour at night, right? Like it's almost like we say all the time, everybody's got a plan when they get into the ring until they get punched in the face. I think that's a Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson or whatever it was, right? I think it's always Muhammad Ali. I always misquote who it is. But nonetheless, like 8 to 5 or even 8 to 8, let's say, right? That's like scrimmage. It's almost chaos. No matter what your plan is, no matter how good your plan is, and we'll get into block scheduling because this will help you out. But this is practical stuff that I can teach you guys that have helped Liz and I make more money, have more time together, have deeper conversations, more scheduled time together, more freedom. I love the great line that John Pajak said on a podcast recently. He said, budgets don't limit you, they free you. Scheduling doesn't limit you, it frees you. And I know that sounds weird, especially if you're like just starting your success, quote unquote, journey. But man, I have found that to be true for myself. So bookends is if you have important tasks to get done, and Stephen Covey is a big one where he's like, eat the frog. And that's an oldie but a goodie. It might even be like a Zig Ziglar thing. But eat the frog. Like eating a frog is nasty. If you had to do it, are you going to like bite it apart into like bite-sized little pieces and all that mess? Like, no. I don't know who the hell would want to eat a frog. I don't know if a conscious person would want to eat a frog anyway, even if they were like interested in that. Like maybe that's a foreign delicacy. That is not your boy here. Okay. I'm a B-dubs, chicken tenders, and French fries and mac and cheese kind of guy with a Caesar salad, of course. Got to balance out, get those greens. But nonetheless, if you had to eat a frog, and I guess that's the analogy, like if you had to, what would you do? You'd probably just chomp that thing in 2 bites and swallow it whole, or if God forbid, if you cannot puncture anything and just swallow that frog whole. I'm thinking this out loud. I would probably just, snake eat that bad boy and just one gobble, throw it down the hatch, be done with it, right? I'm sure that would be disgusting. Thank God we don't have to do that in this country. But nonetheless, if you had something on your schedule today, your big, hairy, audacious goal, your bag. That's what Darren Hardy says, your big, hairy, audacious goal. That's the one glaring big thing. There's a whole book called The One Thing. It's one of my favorite books. Like, what's the one thing we can do that by doing it, everything else becomes unnecessary to do if we just did this one thing, right? Like you got 25 things on your calendar for the day. What's the one thing? Warren Buffett, the Buffett approach. If you have 3 priorities, you have anything more than 3 priorities, you have none. And really many people say if you have anything more than 1 priority, you have none. Okay. Now I'm realistic. 3 to 4 is probably fine. But anything after that, I just realize I just don't get to it. So when people are like, I have my priority list. It's 81 things long. Well, that's an order of importance and priority. But realistically, anything after 3, you might as well just redline it out anyway, because you're not going to get to it. Maybe not that day, that week, that month, that year. So people are like, well, I want to get this and that and this and that and this and that. I'm like, well, that's fine. You can have a running list of things you want to accomplish. But what are we working on like today, this week, this hour, right? It's usually going to be 1, 2, or 3 things. And that's why, to go back to Frank Betcher, you have to get good at prioritizing things that matter. And that's not something I can just teach you overnight. I don't think I can give that to you in a 30-minute podcast, right? There's things that all the time are like glaring attention. Like, I got to get the kids this, or the wife that, or the house this, or the crew this. All fine things to do. I got a customer that's complaining. They're pissed off. Something happened. That's fine. But that doesn't mean I have to change my priorities. That doesn't mean I have to change what I'm working on right now. Customer calls, hey, we have a question on the invoice, or we have a question on the upcoming contract. While today, your priority might be, my wife and I have a date night. So they call you at 7:00, which is already rude. And like, we need to work on this contract. And you're like, listen, dude, this is like a simple analogy. It's kind of an out there one, but pick up what I'm putting down. If a customer called me, residential customer, maybe more realistic, but they called me at 7:00, hey, we'd love to talk about the lawn contract or a landscape job. And they call you at 7:00 or text you at 6:30, hey, are you free at 7? And you say, well, it's Thursday night or Wednesday night or Tuesday night's date night from 6 to 8, 6 to 9. You're like, well, like that seems like a pressing issue. But the reality is, like, you have to learn to prioritize. And maybe date night takes precedent over that customer. Maybe the customer does take precedent over date night. That's a you decision. That's not a me decision. I will tell you, nothing gets in between me and date night. Like, I am militant. I'm actually whatever's after militant. Like, zero tolerance, burn the ships. I will disown you. I will never talk to you again. Don't ever call me. If you call me, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? But I will not be picking up. We don't look at the phone. Date night is date night. I'm there. We never half-ass anything. Remember? That was the newsletter that went out about 2 weeks ago. All right, so bookends. You have to figure out what to prioritize, right? And then number 2, where are you going to put it? Well, number 1 is bookends. A lot of the big stuff that you guys need to do or accomplish, and I'm talking about myself specifically, I have found that doing anything before about 8 a.m. has a, I don't know, percentage chance point, but a 95% chance of getting done, getting addressed, getting worked on, being evaluated, being accomplished, whatever you want to call it, before 8 o'clock in the morning. And here's a quick rant. Successful people, whether you guys like it or not, whether you believe this or not, whether you adhere to it or not, whether you adopt it or not, whether you like it or not, I'm just telling you, there is magic in the morning. And I was not a morning person. I was a nights and evenings and twilight individual. I will just tell you, like, factually, I'm just giving you guys here. I'm a model. I like to model success from what works for other people. Right? Statistically speaking, if I said you have an 88% chance of being a net worth millionaire in 10 years or less by getting up every day at 6 a.m. and putting in work, let's say the average millionaire gets up at 6 a.m. and you said, that's fine. I'm going to try getting up at 7:30 or 7:45. Like, and they said you have a 12% chance after a decade based on whatever, right? Just hypotheticals, right? Work with me. I always tell people, like, why shortcut the shortcut? Don't reinvent the wheel. Stop being so difficult, right? Like, if your way worked, we'd all be listening to you. And I'm not saying that about myself. I'm saying myself included, folks. I'm in the y'all part. Like, if your way worked, we would all be listening to you. So if we're not all listening to you, whoever you is, and Tony Robbins says the average successful millionaire is successful because they wake up at 5:30 in the morning. You have a 92% chance of outperforming every one of your peers in your profession, your income, and your happiness. Well, to me, I'd say, well, okay, let me just talk really frank. This is Brian Fullerton talking. I don't think I'm anybody special, so I have to put myself in situations that allow me to the upside, the benefit, the chance, the opportunity to just be successful. And if I learned that I have a 92% chance of being, quote unquote, more successful, quote unquote, whatever that means, if I got up at 5:30 in the morning, well, shit, what would you do? Well, again, I'm not going to tell you what you would do because I don't know your ambition. But for me, if I wanted to be wealthier, and that's relative, pick your number, pick your thing, Wealthy time, wealthy relationships, wealthy fitness, wealthy money. That's fine. But if you had a 92% chance of hitting whatever your wealthy target goal was, and it was to get up at 5:30 in the morning and get so-and-so X number of tasks done by 7:30 in the morning before the rest of the average, normal John Q. civilian public wakes up, I would do that. I would encourage you to do that. I would say try it. Oh, I'm not a morning person. Okay, that's fine. You can hug your pillow and drool a little bit longer in the cold 68-degree room that's totally blacked out. I'm all about that life. Go get your 9 hours in. Go get your 10 hours in. Go get your 8 hours in. That's fine. That's cool. But if you were to get 7 or 8 hours in still, or an hour less, or you went to bed an hour earlier, for the love of God, turn off late night television. None of that's benefiting you anyway. And you happen to get up an hour or two earlier, and you had let's say it's a 90% chance of you becoming more successful or attaining whatever you're looking to do because you got up at 5:30, because statistically speaking, and these are real stats anyway, you could look this stuff up. I know for a fact, I've read hundreds and hundreds of articles about the average everything. The average CEO gets up at 4:30, 5:30, and people are like, well, that's, that's because they make $25 million a year. Okay. And the average CEO reads on average 50 to 60 books a year. The average adult over 18 reads between like 0 and 1. Okay, so if the average CEO makes 60 times a rank and file line factory worker, and they read 60 more books per year than the average worker, that just tells me hey, maybe I should read more books. And books aren't correlation isn't causation, right? But at the same point, if successful CEOs spend $10,000 to $50,000 a year on self-development, going to conferences, reading, continuing education, and they read and they travel and they invest in themselves, well, if every CEO that makes 7 figures plus does that, by the way, let me ask you guys this real quick. Are you a CEO? Are you the CEO of your company? Yes. Yes, you are. So let's start replicating habits of things that other people do to become successful. Those successful CEOs all make an incredible amount of money. They read and they educate and they go to things. And then you're a CEO of your company and you're going to say, I don't believe in that, or I don't want to do that. Or it's quote unquote, here's the big line, it's not a priority to me. Okay, so then why are we doing what we're doing? If you could I would say smart work times hard work equals success. I know people that just want to be a 9 in hard work and a 1 in smart work. And I know people that want to read and ascend to success by just reading everything, studying every podcast. I've answered thousands of DMs with people, and some people I've answered 1,000 DMs per person. And I'm like, hey man, did you ever buy that mower yet? No, man, still doing some research, still thinking about it. By the way, what do you think about this, this, and this? And by the way, are you worried about that, that, and that? Those kind of people bug the snot out of me the most, because I'm putting my time down a black hole. And you don't want to be an asshole. You heard that correctly. You don't want to be an asshole. Don't find your guru out there, whoever your guy is, and ask him 500 questions and haul off and do nothing. You're a black hole, and you're going to get the cold shoulder before you know it. Okay? Don't be an asshole. Be a giver, and then be an action taker. All right, so let's wake up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm not telling you what to do. You don't have to do that. This is just a glaring example. But the reason it's cool to get up in the morning, and even stay up for an extra hour at night if you have to. Maybe your schedule works the other way. Maybe you're wired the other way. Some people are morning people. Some people are night people. I'm 100% a night people. I get so much work done between 10 and 2 in the morning. It's not even funny. Now, I still get up at 6 a.m. even if I go to bed at 2 a.m. That's a whole other story, because I'm going to not lose the opportunity to capitalize on that morning bookend. But I'm also, literally insane. But at the end of the day, I have an insane lifestyle right now. I'm really happy about my life, my income, and my business, and my family. I'm more in love with my wife every day. We have babies popping out. Things are good. By design. Nothing. And I'm not the smartest dude. I am literally not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I will tell you, I will commit to that to you. I will guarantee that to you. But I'm hey, if this is what successful people do, I'm going to adopt that. If this is how successful people prioritize, that's what I'm going to do. If this is how certain things work with money, okay, then I'm going to probably establish and develop enough habits and adopt as much as I can with money, right? So on and so forth. And I'm just I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I'm just hey, what's working for you? What's working for you? What's working for you? What's working with here? Okay, let's start replicating and duplicating and adding those habits and those thoughts to my life. And hopefully, for the love of God, you guys are doing this with your life. I'm trying to give you the farm here. I'm telling you, do what other successful people are going to do, and you will, and have done, and you will have the same thing. Right? Success isn't elusive. It's a planned event. We've said that on hundreds of shows. All right, so let's go back to, If you're looking to get things done, you're looking to prioritize our schedule, we're looking to get things done, a great opportunity is to put them in the bookends. Get up a little earlier and knock this stuff out at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, that's a great way to do it. Or, again, similarly, you're like, hey, sharpening your lawnmower blades at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, not a horrible activity in your business. Nobody would be like, you're a loser. However, doing income-producing activity from 8 to 6 or 8 to 8 is probably a better priority of your time and of your activity, right? You do not need to be sharpening lawnmower blades between 8 and 8. My opinion. You do you. We do not do that. That is not a thing. It will never be a thing. It was never a thing. My guys know if they want some extra hours on the clock, they can sharpen lawnmower blades before 7:30 in the morning, get to the locker, pump up the generator, and you can sharpen lawnmower blades, or you can stick around at 4:30 on Friday, because we normally work to about noon, 1, 2 on Friday. We try to do like a half day at best. If not, just take Friday off because we crush it Monday through Thursday. But at the end of the day, if they want to go sharpen some lawnmower blades, get some hours in on a Friday or a Saturday morning, if we're not working, quote unquote, like that's the time to do it. But nobody's at our storage locker. This is a simple example, but I can give you 100 more. We're not changing oil from 8 to 8. We don't wash the cars from 8 to 8. We don't sharpen lawnmower blades from 8 to 8. We don't fix many things from 8 to 8. That's if a bolt is loose or something got scraped or we got to replace a seal, a gasket, or whatever, right? That's all stuff you do outside of income producing activities. Now, that's just extremes, right? You can, of course, there's like, hey, if the deck belt breaks, well, I'm not fixing something until 6 o'clock. No, silly. Like, that's not how it works. We got to fix the deck belt to get back to mowing. Of course, we got to fix that really quick. But you shouldn't be changing the oil at 3 p.m., right? If your quote unquote production schedule is 8 to 4 every day or 7 to 4 every day. Does that make sense? And so again, I can get any man to do anything except for to do things in the order of their importance. So not only do you, but here's a quick leadership metric. Not only do you have to learn to prioritize, but you also have to teach that to your people. If you go out to your yard, you got 6 guys working for you, and the guy's changing the oil, unless he's like the on-site mechanic, if he's out, one of your guys should be slinging mulch or running a delivery or whatever, like if he's changing oil or sharpening blades, throw a wrench at him. You know what I mean? Like if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Throw a wrench at that guy. He should not, because you have to teach thought process, not only to you, but to your organization. And tell him why. Remember, don't tell anybody what to do without telling them why you do it. Hey man, I know you're sharpening the lawnmower blades, because he's like, dude, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing a good job. Like, wouldn't the boss want me to like clean up the shop or push a broom or sharpen blades or change oil? He does. I do, you do, he does. Yeah, absolutely. Like, dude, thumbs up, round of applause, great job, high fives. But for the company to make money, for production to come in, sharpening blades or changing oil or washing the equipment, right? That is not an 8 to 5 task. And we have to teach our crew and our team. This company works because it produces revenue. Through that revenue, it covers overhead. After overhead, there's profit. And through that profit, including the overhead of your salary, that's how we pay people. That's how you earn an income here. We do not earn an income for sharpening lawnmower blades. Well, people, and this is the rebuttal. Well, we have to have sharp lawnmower blades to go cut the grass, Brian. Right. That is totally true, of course. But the reality is that is not a task we should be doing during income producing activity, because I'll give you a quick, for instance, like people would hate on me for, on YouTube, like, well, where do you find the time to edit videos and film videos and all this stuff? And I'm like, dude, it takes 6 extra minutes during the workday to like film some stuff. And by the way, when did I edit that stuff? 6 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we got home, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we got home, 12 o'clock during the day when the guys are out. Dude, never, ever, none of the above. It takes me 10 extra minutes to capture some content for YouTube, and I would edit every single thing when it was dark outside, after hours. The guys are home, they're eating pizza, they're going to, football games, they're watching TV. I couldn't capture content for YouTube after 9 p.m. It doesn't make sense. I can't do that. I have to capture content during the day, quote unquote, if I'm trying to be successful with YouTube. But I would never edit that stuff until outside of income producing activity for company A. We would redline 8 to 6 every single day with the lawn and landscaping business. From 5 to 9, 6 to 9, it's life, that's family, that's friends. I mean, we still go to the movies. We still have friends. We still go out and about. Like all of the stuff that we talk about that seems all consuming. It's like 1% of my life. Now we eat, sleep, and breathe it. But at the end of the day, like we still go out to eat 3 days a week. We still go hang out with my mom once a week. Her mom once, my wife, mother-in-law's once a week. I still go to music class once a week with my daughter. Right? Like you can block schedule this kind of stuff out. We'll get to that here in a quick second. But at the end of the day, people are like, well, how did you do all this stuff with YouTube? After 9 p.m. at night, while people were watching TV and sports and ESPN and highlights and recaps and FIFA Cup and the Super Bowl. So I was at McDonald's the other day. Liz and I were just getting some food after church, and Emmy was freaking out. She's like, eat, 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 eat. If you guys know, you've been there with the kids. Like, eat, eat. There's no food, honey. Eat, eat. And then, eat turns into crying turns into nuclear warfare. It's just how it works. So I'm like, we're stopping and getting some French fries, okay? While I'm in there, I'm in line. I use a little thing to put in my order. The screens now, because there's no employees, because everybody wants to get $18 an hour to flip fries. Sorry, that's not how it works. It's an entry-level job. If you want to make $18 an hour, find a skill set, okay? That being said, I'm in line. Some other dude's in line. This guy next to me, and he's like, hey, man, you think the Super Bowl is rigged? I look over. I go, what? He goes, man, you think the Super Bowl is rigged? Younger kid. I go, I don't even know, bro. Like, I didn't even watch the Super Bowl. Like, I saw a couple clips, but I was like, I don't know. He goes, man, that was totally robbed. Like, so-and-so hold it, and they got 3 points. He goes, no Super Bowl should be decided by 3 points. I got nothing, bro. I said, I don't even know who. I go, who played? And I do know who played because I saw people post on Instagram. But I said, I don't even know, bro. Like, but I'll tell you like what my businesses did that day. I'll tell you like how much money we made that day, that week, and I'll tell you that I like spent time with my wife that day. I don't know. And dude, if you watch the Super Bowl, who cares? Like, God bless. Like, I've never jumped down anybody's throat. But dude, he's like worried about the Super Bowl. It's been 3 weeks, I think, right? Like, I think it was mid-February. It's been 3 weeks, bro, since the Super Bowl. You're still talking about the Super Bowl? And no offense, like he's young, he's, doesn't know what he doesn't know, or who cares, whatever. I'm not judging. I don't give a crap. You should be successful like Fullerton. Like, dude, it's not like that. It's never like that. But I'm just like an observant person. I'm a people watcher. I'm like, oh, okay. Like if I had to guess your income, I would probably get it within about $5,000 or $10,000. And here's a tip. It's probably not over 40,000. No offense, no shade. Well, the money's not everything, Fullerton. Right. That's why you leave your house 40, 50 hours a week to go make it. If it's not a priority, then why do you leave your house so long to go make so little? Okay, but I'm the bad guy because I got to say stuff like that. It's just unbelievable these days. Like, maybe drop the ego, talking to people out there, talking to myself, drop the ego, learn from how people make money that have successful companies, and they'll tell you the same stuff I'm telling you. But I'm the middle guy. I'm the messenger, so you know what they say, right? Don't shoot the messenger. But any which way. All these little rants, all these little topics. Like, by the way, somebody who's talking about the Super Bowl 3 weeks later, like, can you imagine that guy's priority schedule? Can you imagine that guy's priority list? Right? Like, I couldn't even imagine. So after 10 o'clock is when we edit all of our YouTube videos. People are like, well, like you don't even work in the field anymore. And like, or you're a fake business. Or as my company's growing $50,000 a year in revenue, their company's like stagnant, going backwards, couldn't even hold a candle to anything we're doing in terms of revenue or profit. They're going to also simultaneously judge like what we're doing. And then simultaneously, I'm running a media company, growing that thing crazy, like 6 figures plus revenue growth per year for 5 years straight. And then they're going to tell me that like what I'm doing is wrong, or what we're saying doesn't work, or I don't know what I'm talking about, or who are you to give advice? And I'm like, dude, if you only knew. And like, we don't know any other better way to show it or to prove it than to do it. Like, you can say whatever you want about Brian Fullerton and Brian's Law Maintenance, but it's all out in front of you in terms of like the success or lack thereof. Right? Like, it's all in front of you. Everything we have is like accountable because it's so public. And outside of that, it's back end accountable because you think I'm going to get sued and become an example, or I'm going to get audited and become an example and get thrown in jail? Hell no. So everything is like so squeaky clean and it's frustrating because 5 years ago, I was like, this is not fair that I get to be under that much scrutiny. And if I, under that much scrutiny, you know what Kanye said? You act that much more stupidly. No, I'm just kidding. But that's why, like, I take this stuff so serious, right? And many of you guys appreciate that. And the people that hate, they're going to hate no matter what you do. I heard somebody say, if Jesus was on the corner giving out gold bars, people would still criticize him for it and still say like he's a scam artist or something, like it's just wow. That being said, YouTube, I could run the lawn care business, redline that thing 8 to 8. We would just edit our YouTube videos and create social media posts for the day or the next day at nights and weekends. And Liz and I helped with that with each other for years. That's what we do. That's what we still do. All of our meetings are always at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. People like, hey man, congrats on the book. Great job. Awesome book. Like people are reading it, starting to review it. You guys are just devouring it that are getting it on Kindle. I get to see the pages read. So I know like, it's actually pretty cool. Like that, you don't get any feedback on the paperbacks or the hardbacks, but you do get Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, gives me real-time stats on the book pages download. And the e-Kindle downloads seem to be the most energized or engaged reading platform that we have so far. I don't have any metrics for paper, but long story short, if we sold 6 books on the Kindle and we have 100 book pages and that's 600 pages read, if it was all completed, we have like 572 or something like that out of like the 6 e-Kindle versions read, which number one, thanks for buying the book. Number 2, just goes to show that like, it's not a hard read. It's only 100 pages long. It's a storybook. It's my story plus X's and O's. It's like Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in an afternoon. It's, I don't know, probably 180 pages. I read that thing in an afternoon. It was such an easy read. It was such a fun read. That's what I wanted to do with my book. I didn't want it to be this ultra credentialed or ultra story, right? I wanted to kind of have 2 oars in the water, a story plus credentials, credentials plus story. Credentialed meaning like what you actually have to do to grow a real business and to get things solidified and lay the foundation. And so that being said, I have people saying, dude, congrats on the book. When did you find the time to write a book? I'm like, well, I just found the time to write the book. And we talked about this on a podcast before. Like, you just get it done. Well, how do you get it done? Like, there's no, there's only 168 hours in a week. Like, how do you get so much done? I'm like, well, turn off your TV and watch you save 30. Get off Instagram and watch you save another 10 hours a week. Maybe don't hug your pillow like it's your wife. Hug your wife like it's your wife. Don't hug your pillow like it's your wife. And instead of getting 8 hours a day times 7, it's 56 hours. Get 7 hours. Wow, you just opened up another 8 hours. Maybe get 6 hours of sleep for a week or a month. It won't kill you. Okay, well, I need 7 hours. I need 8 hours. So scientifically, statistically speaking, all this other stuff. Dude, I think life ebbs and flows. There's times when I get 8 hours of sleep every single day in the winter. And there's time in the summer, dude, where I'm doing quotes till midnight, just like you guys. And we're getting up at 6 and we got to go slay the day. And I'm dragging ass. So don't give me this like, well, I need 6 hours all the time. Dude, that's not even a thing. Don't give me that. And if you want to do that, that's fine. You're just going to have a smaller impact on your life and your income and your business. That's okay. Just be real. But don't judge me because I don't mind getting around with a little less sleep. And I order in food. Let's talk about the whole, eating out thing versus ordering in thing. People are like, well, DoorDash is expensive. I'm like, not really. $27 to get a meal delivered instead of going out for an hour and a half and spending $14. It's an $8 premium. It's a 30% premium to get food delivered to me. So I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean. I can just eat it, pound face, and I'm done in 20 minutes. And so if you're spending an hour every day eating out, and we did a whole podcast, maybe a year and a half ago, it was a productivity hacks podcast. It was one of my favorite podcasts, bar none. And I said, like, if you spend an hour eating out and I spend 20 minutes just ordering food, getting it delivered, pound face, eat, and I'm done, I get 40 extra minutes. 40 extra minutes times 5 days a week. That's, I don't know, another 2.5 hours, let's say, more or less. 2.5 hours a week times 50 weeks. That's an extra 150 hours a year. By the way, it took me about 100 hours to write the book between the typography, the artwork, which I hired out a lot of that stuff, but the back and forth, writing the manuscript, blah, 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 talking with Paul 85 times, bugging the snot out of him. There's 100 hours into that book. And I just told you that if you just have food delivered to you or the job site, I can help you. And maybe you don't want to write a book during the day, obviously, but at the end of the night, turn off the TV. Maybe your 45 minutes is watching TV. Turn off the TV and watch how fast you can write a book or write a blog or write a novel or whatever. Right? There's your 100, 150 hours, just saving 30 minutes a day. I don't have time to read. Well, I'm like, well, there's 15 to 20 minutes every single night that you can work on self-development. Talk about the other end of the bookends. I don't have time for podcasts. I mean, we're on mowers 8 hours a day, so maybe a bad example, but I got people that are like, I can't listen to stuff. Okay, well, I do landscaping. It's different. Okay, sure, but dude, you can go get a pump in at night at the gym. You can spend 30, 45 minutes at the gym. I'm all about that life. Listen to a podcast. I mean, how many more times do you have to listen to Metallica to get a pump? Well, it puts me in a different headspace. Dude, I get it. But so does talking about somebody else who's fired up about life get the blood boiling. Right? So you're listening to Megadeth and Metallica and, dude, I don't even know bands from the 80s and 90s, right? You're listening to like, how many times do you have to listen to Eminem 8 Mile to get pumped up? It's not how it works. You should be motivated internally to not have to continuously listen to that kind of stuff to get pumped up. Listen to a podcast, double tap, net time, no extra time, NET, net, no extra time. These are bookends that you can do at night. Reading, get your workout in, self-development. You can be on the Peloton and you can listen to these wacko woke people scream, you're awesome, and that's fine, and that's cool, and I'm all about that life. Or you can get a little book clip, keep your book spread open, and you could read 10 pages out of a good book, whatever your thing is. And even if it was just escapism, you're reading a novel or a fiction story or whatever it is, that's fine, dude. I'm all about that life. It's not always about success or die. But you could also put up your book on your Peloton or on your treadmill or on your incumbent bike, whatever it's called. Incumbent, whatever. Your bike, right? Like you'd have to listen to the instructor. We all know it's a 30-minute sessions of 2-minute warm-up, a 5-minute pace, a 7-minute, let's amp it up, a 2-minute cool down, a 7-minute amp it up, a 2-minute cool down, a 7-minute amp it up, a 2-minute cool down, and a 2-minute done. That's your 30 minutes. Okay, like you can do that, look at the screen every 7 minutes and go, where are we at? Oh, okay, cool. And you could read 10, 15 pages of a good book. I mean, it's easy to me. I did a talk, Liz and I did a talk at LAL and I talked about it's that simple. It's so simple. It's that simple. It seems so hard to be, I don't want to say successful, but to like get things done. But man, when you learn to prioritize and you learn to like focus on things that matter, and dude, I can't teach you that. I can't teach you what it is because your life is different than my life. Like your wife might need way more attention. My wife might need less attention. My wife might need more attention, but my kids need less attention. Your kids might be in 3 sports. We have our kids in no sports or 1 sport. Or you might have like a 70-year-old home that needs, things constantly breaking, and so you got to constantly fix. Somebody else has a new construction and things still break, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? It's not fair to judge yourself against somebody else, but you have to figure out what works for you. And I can't say that more sincerely, more lovingly, more I just want you to win. But you have to start figuring this stuff out, distilling it down, writing it down, and getting an agreement and alignment with your spouse and your wife. Right? Like these are not overnight fixes. These are thousands of little nuanced details like cleaning up the clothes. Is that important today? Maybe, maybe not. Like your wife will spaz if the house isn't clean. Maybe she won't spaz if the house isn't clean. Like I got to clean the toilets every 5 days, or like I go psychopathically OCD. Awesome. That's fine. That's fine if that's the case. And other times it might be like, hey, an every 2-week thing, a little splash, a little wipe is good to go. That's fine too. Everybody's different, right? And there's no, I'm right, you're wrong, you're right, I'm wrong. It's never anything like that with me, my life, my content, anything that we put out there to try to help you guys grow. They're just suggestions that get the conversation going. And one thing that people like, I don't know any other way to say it. Like one thing that people just don't give successfuler people the credit is that they figured it out for them. Right? Like success doesn't just hit you or fit people. It doesn't just happen. Like it's a planned event. And so many people are unwilling to plan. They're unwilling to prepare. It's the good old, like more people spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do the rest of their financial lives. Right? Like chance favors the prepared. And at the same point, like there's no apologies. I see people live their life in chaos. You chose to watch the Super Bowl. You chose to talk about it 3 weeks later, still watching highlights on ESPN and arguing about who tackled who or who grabbed who. and I'm over here just launching my book, or I'm over here securing a new commercial account, or I'm here, I'm unapologetic about it. Like there's no reason to be ignorant about it, right? And so we talked about bookends. It's a great time to capitalize on your time. That's number one way that people can do it. Number two is block scheduling, and we'll button this thing up. Block scheduling really simply is from 10 to 3 on Thursday, 2 to 4 on Monday, from 5 to 7, on Tuesday night for date night. Like that's block scheduling. That is militant. Nothing gets in the way of whatever you're doing. And by the way, like that could be prioritizing work that has to get done, repairs that have to get done. That's when you do your commercial bids. That's when you do your estimates. That's when you do your visits for customers. Like Calfo is notoriously for 5 years, at least I knew him when I was watching him on YouTube. It was Saturday quotes. In fact, that's how I became able to befriend him, because he was so militant on Saturday being Saturday quotes from like 8 to noon, 8 to 2, that I called him, left him a voicemail. Hey, you don't know me. I'm a weirdo. I'm over in Michigan. I'm an hour down the road. I got a YouTube channel. Got 8,000 subs. You don't know me. I know you do Saturday quotes. Could I just tag along? I would just love to just be a fly on the wall. Could I just tag along? I'd like to be your friend. I think we could do some YouTube stuff together. Calfus had like 30, 40, 50,000 subs back in the day. I was like, hey, I'm on the come up. I would love to just hang out. Please, I'll do anything. I'll feed you. I'll bring breakfast. I will not get in the way. I will help you with quotes. I don't know anything about quoting, but I will help you with anything that you got going on. Could I please just spend some time with you? And by the way, if people say no, it's a no. I wasn't like, dude, you owe me anything. Nothing like that. He said, actually, sure. If you want to come jump in the truck for me, I got some stuff I got to handle for the first half of the morning. But if you want to come jump in at like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, we'll go make friends. We'll go hang out. Awesome. We hung out from like 10 to 1. We got like a Moe's burrito or something like that, and a place over by his side of town. And we became friends after that. That's all it was. But I knew 9 to 2, whatever, 8 to 2 on Saturdays was Saturday quotes. And some of you guys remember this stuff. And I was like, all right, put myself in a position to win. I'm not going to bother him, but I can do quotes. Now, also, he could have just said like, dude, no distractions. Like he's got that right? No distractions. 8 to 2 is when I do quotes. That's why I do quotes, so I don't have distractions. If I want to meet groupies, I can meet groupies after hours, right? Like, and I was a groupie. I was like, I want to hang out with Keith Kalfas, bro. But he also had the right to say no, right? Like actually, Darren Hardy, I've invited him to speak at our conference every single year. I'm begging. I'd pay this guy anything. It's always a no, and it breaks my heart. Because I would like name my first boy Darren, right? Like you guys have no idea how much this guy means to me. Like if there's any one dude and the one guy, the one thing, the one whatever, like it's Darren Hardy. That guy has helped me change my life and my business, literally practically speaking, more than any single, and a lot of people have. Like if there's a pie chart, he's 51%, everybody else is 26, 21, 15, and 8. Okay. Like, but bar none, the things that he has taught me have changed my life more than anybody out there. Unfortunately, he has his like Achievers Summit, whatever it's called, like the week before or the week after my conference in November. And it's not the $50,000, $65,000, $75,000 to get him in to speak. I pay it. I mean, I would totally take an L financially. It would not be profitable. It would be the whole budget of LAL. I mean, like, I'm not even paying the AV guy after that. You know what I'm saying? But I would love to do it one time. Just one time, have like my hero, my guy, not Gary Vee, not John Maxwell, not Tony Robbins, all great dudes. Love those guys. I mean, I can give you 1,000 things I've learned from 1,000 different people. Darren Hardy's my dude. And it sucks because he will not let anything into his schedule. Imagine the dude that taught me this and the stuff that I'm screaming at you guys about. Like he is the originator of a lot of thought process, great accumulator and originator and reproducer of a lot of this great thought process. What do you think the likelihoods of me asking him to make his schedule budge if he's the dude putting out this type of thought process? 0. Unless I'm a guru of gurus. And I was like 10x Grant Cardone saying, Darren, we'd love to have you in. We'll pay you $250,000 and you'll get a ton of clout and fame. Okay, that's probably a good time to like lower like your non-negotiables, right? Like Darren would be like, I'll think about it. But frankly, I haven't seen him at anybody's conference in October, November's, or December's because that's his time to do his big thing. So I need to go participate with him. And that's fine. That's cool. That's awesome. The problem with that is it's hard to be like, hey, I'm leaving town for a week. The 2 weeks leading up to our event, it's like, dude, it's all hands on deck. It's like muster stations. You know what I mean? So it's like, dude, am I ever going to see my dude live? And she's like, well, we got this private mastermind. We all get together a couple times a year. You got to have like a 7-figure business. It's a chunk of change to invest in it, blah, blah, blah. And I told Liz, I'm like, dude, Like everything we got combined, like we might be able to get there one day. Like, what do you think? And Liz is like, dude, if that's your guy, we'll do it. And maybe he's got a conference in March or July or a mastermind in April. Like April would suck, but maybe in August or September. Like that'd be awesome. If anybody's got Darren's contact info, tell him Brian Fullerton loves it, man. He's changed my life more than anybody. But I can't get onto his schedule. Don't let other people get onto your schedule. When you're starting to block things out, date night for Liz and I, it's on Thursdays. We're going to start doing weekly live webinars on Wednesday, including today. If you guys want to jump on YouTube, we'll be on live tonight at 7. But originally I was like, yeah, we'll do Thursdays. And I realized, oh shit, that's date night. Nothing gets in between me and Liz. Nothing. That is my wife. That is my best friend. That is the person I chose to spend the rest of my life with. That's the person I want to always make happy. It's the number one person on my list of priority, right? Nothing is going to get ever in between me and date night. Liz like blew it off one time, like, I don't know, a little over a year ago. She's like, yeah, I'm just not feeling it. And I like had said puppy dog face. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to do date night? And she's like, yeah, I mean, I'm just not feeling it. And I went, are we getting a divorce? And she's like, what the fuck? She's like, what are you talking about? I said, I don't think you understand like how much, if I'm in a cavern or I'm in a hole and like the mudslide and the mud's just like caving in and I'm like pushing all the mud out of the hole, right? Like that whole deal. And I'm just like getting buried alive. I'm like, you don't understand like how much life is coming. I mean, you do because she's living it with me, but I'm like, you don't understand. Like I'm holding the dam at bay, every single thing I can for 3 hours or 2 hours or an hour, how much I prioritize date night and how much I value spending 2, 3, 4 hours totally focused, unsolicited, undistracted, or whatever you want to call it, just distracted time. Like it's such a priority to me. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. It's like life or death. It's like, this has to happen. And she's like, I didn't know you felt that adamant about date night. And I went, get in the shower. We're going to date night. You will spend time with me. You know what I mean? Like that's how much I value that time together with my wife, because we do go 100 miles an hour and it's hard to get like 2 hours or it's hard to get 20 minutes some of the times. Right. And you guys are in the same boat, especially with the spring rush and long. It's not about social media, stupid stuff. It's like, dude, just life and kids and family and just everything, bro. My saving grace is like, I get 3-4 hours a week with my anchor person. That's my wife. Right. And I need that. And so let's talk about block scheduling. That can be, it can be, I do Saturday quotes. We do landscape quotes from, on Wednesdays only from 5 to 7. I remember this being an issue. I remember, and he shared about it publicly. And hopefully he doesn't mind me resharing, but like Andy Mulder and his wife were like probably tiffing, behind the scenes, but he was like, it was just hard. It wasn't like they were mad or evil or, anything crazy. It was just like, he had to do quotes. I mean, you got to do quotes. If you're a landscaper, like you got to do quotes and people are working 8 to 5. So I think his their solution, and I think he's shared about this, was like, hey, we're going to do Tuesday night quotes. I think from like 5 to 7, he does quotes and he's home for dinner by like, 7:30. And the kids have to understand, the wife has to compromise. Like, okay, fine. I don't mind if you go do quotes from 5 to 7. I just can't have you out 4 nights a week from 5 to 7 doing quotes. Like I need you to watch the kids. I need someone to help with dinner and put laundry away and just blah, 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 blah. Of course. It's real life stuff, dude. Like, duh. But the fact that like they came to a mature business owner, here's the thing, right? Imagine this. They figured it out what works for them. They looked at the lay of the land. They had all the cards on the table. Tuesday looks like it's the best opportunity. Maybe not even, maybe Andy's like, I like Mondays or I like Thursdays or what, but Tuesday just seemed to be 63% of all of our whatever could get done maybe on a Tuesday. The next up was, 21% on a Thursday. Like, right. It nudged it out. Tuesday it is. Saturday it is. Monday it is, right? You got to figure out what works for you. Like if your kids are in 3 sports a week and they got practice on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you want to get a date night in them with the wife at least once a week, that's Tuesday. And Friday, you guys got to kind of go out or have family night or go to the movies or, parents come over, like whatever. Okay, then what's left? Well, Saturday, 8 to 11 in the morning is Saturday quotes. Dude, that's fun. That's cool. Like that's how you have to run it. So block scheduling is non-negotiable blocks of windows and time where you don't let anything in there. Okay. For Liz and I, 10 to 3 on Thursdays has become a time for me to dedicate to my social media in terms of coaching calls and webinars. I want to do webinars and just help people grow and make these resources available on YouTube. It's like the low yield views. It's not, going to get 50,000 views, but it's the helpful stuff. These videos get 1,000, views, but it's like about branded bull and cycle and bookkeeping and how to grow and how to win and podcasting and getting you guys on the show. That's an important thing for us. That's like integrated part of our life with our social media business. And our social media business is the lawn care business. The lawn care business is the social media business. It's all this huge hodgepodge, right? But like from 10 to 3 on Thursdays, that's when I do coaching calls. We used to be all over the place. You get in where you fit in, right? 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 2 in the afternoons, 7 o'clock on Sundays. And when we were just dual income or young baby, family, like it was no big deal. But like to prioritize family and to have schedules and all this mess, it just made sense for us to block schedule. And by the way, Liz and I used to do stuff like that all the time with other priorities and topics and interests, right? And it's the same thing with like, it can be anything grandier too, or grandiose or larger, or let's zoom out. It can be there's like the every 2 weeks, take 2 days, every 2 months, take 2 days, every 2 years, take 2 weeks, like vacation stuff, like prioritizing vacation time with your wife or your family or your spouse or your husband, right? Like that's fine. It's all the same thing. It's called block scheduling, right? And, what's his name? Greg Wittstock's a great example. He's like, I plan all my family time and all my vacation time first. Then I backfill days working at Aquascape. And I thought it was a fantastic way. So block scheduling is like finding out chunks. You're like, hey, every day from maybe you have a crew of 6 or 7 guys and they all go out with the workload. And you're like, hey, my gym time is 11 to noon or 10 to 2, or not 10 to 2, but 10 to noon. Or you do 9:30 to 10:30 is your CrossFit class. And it's, your CrossFit gym 7 minutes down the road. They're back, shower, clean up, it's an hour and a half all in because you want to prioritize health. Dude, I'm all about that. I'm not saying you can't prioritize like non-income producing activity during like income producing activity times. Like that's not the case because health gets to be a trump card, right? It can circumvent. That's fine. If it's a priority for you. Again, if that's a priority for you. You're like, hey, I had an injury. I need to do working out to stay fit and physical therapy. And it is a priority for me to not go sling mulch or be on the mow crew or do a bit or whatever. Okay, dude, that's fine. That's awesome. Like nobody's going to judge you. I'm not judging you. That makes sense. I would love to get to a position where I've got guys out and about and it is a priority for me, for my health. It's harder to do with bookends because I'm already doing other things on bookends. My biorhythm is more of an afternoon kind of a person anyway. And so what am I going to do alternatively? Go to the gym from 10 to 11. I think Corey's a big advocate of that. Corey Ballard. Like he goes to the gym from like 10 to noon pretty much every single day. Once the guys are out, the warehouse is moving with Ballard products. Everybody's got their marching orders. He's already shot out 300 emails by 6 a.m. Right? Like he's already booked in the mornings. Corey likes to go down at 9 p.m. for sleep because he gets up at 4:30. Schedule 7 to 8 hours of sleep. But then at the end of the day, people are like, I just can't get anything done. Well, why? Let's start evaluating our schedules. Okay. So, man, this is like that was just not a good podcast episode in terms of like helpful content. I'm so thank God that this stuff is in my brain that I can share to you guys out there, and you guys have helped me grow. We've all learned together. Like this isn't wild stuff. I say that humbly. Like I cannot believe like we can have access to this kind of information. This kind of stuff was only available for kings and CEOs just minutes before podcasting. And now this information is just whatever the word is, like it's available everywhere for free. It's wild. I'm telling you, this stuff can pay huge dividends in your guys' business, in your guys' life. I implore you to just go down the rabbit hole, keep learning about this stuff. Google search Darren, Darren Hardy, Hardy. He's my guy. Productivity Secrets of Super Achievers on YouTube. Punch that in. I might have to scroll a couple deep, but he's got some great stuff out there. I mean, he is the GOAT. Okay. So the reason I bring up this whole topic is like Liz and I have, and I said this at the top of the show, Liz and I have like 30, 40 vendor meetings with windows and siding and paint and shingles and doors and stone and tile for the home, just a home. We have the same, very similar conversations going on with the pole barn builder. Like we got to do just so much stuff done with that. We got a new baby coming. We got to make sure like, do we have clothes and food and milk and supplies and whatever the hell, you know what I mean? I'm not Liz is actually more on that if you can't tell, but it's all got to get paid attention to. I've got the guys, the mulch, the landscaping, the mow schedule, the clients, the counts, the contracts. We're still doing snow too. That's the wild part, right? The social media stuff, the books, the YouTube podcast, the telling people to use Brian's 10, like, dude, it just never ends. But it always comes down to prioritization. And then number 2, it comes down to scheduling, block scheduling, and bookends. I'm telling you, that's where the magic happens, because 8 to 4, 8 to 5, bro, like it's just noise. It's just work. It's just execute. It's just brute force. Get everything done. Of course, you can be strategic and tactical and Like you don't throw, just because you're like intelligent from, 6 in the morning to 8 doesn't mean you're not intelligent and thoughtful from 8 to 5 every day, right? Like, that's not the case. But at the end of the day, I can't control a flat tire. I can't control rain. I can't control a gate that's locked in the backyard for us to not mow. So you just do as best you can from 8 to 5 every single day. And of course, you don't give up until the job's done. You don't quit till the job's done. Like, that's when you finish, right? We finish. We don't just mail it in, right? But more specifically, like if you want to have things that you can quote unquote control, because you don't really get to manage your time, but there are things you can control, and that is your actions and your attitude. And one of the best things you can control with your actions is block scheduling and bookends with your scheduling. That's where I found the most time. That's where I found the most success. Those are the windows that I have found pay the biggest dividends in my life. I'm telling you straight up, I can't give you any more honest answers than that. And so, in which way, humbled to be able to share this with you guys. Hopefully this podcast, I don't care if it's got 100 downloads or 100,000 downloads. I don't care. Just every single extra person, praise the Lord, is listening, that I could just hopefully pay it forward to you guys. That's my mission. That's what I'm charged with. That's what I believe the podcast is here for. If you guys have found any value in this, dude, I don't even know what else to say, man. Like, holler at your boy. Shoot me an email. Let me know what's working for you. Leave us a 5-star rating and review if you don't mind. Don't get soft on that. Drop down in the menu really quick. Hit 5 stars, dude. Leave me a couple sentences. Dude, episode whatever was a banger, dude. Thank you so much for putting this thing out. Like, just help keep social proof in the podcast for us. That way more great people like you guys and other friends and other peers in the industry can keep finding resources like this. If you think it's a good resource out there, maybe somebody else can benefit. Leave us those ratings and reviews. We super appreciate that. And also, don't forget, I guess last thing I'll ask, and here's my plea, pick up 0 to 100K. That's our book on Amazon. Literally just punch it right into the search bar. It's coming right on up. It's selling like crazy. I can't thank you guys enough. It means the world to me. And when your book comes out, you holler at me and I will pick up your copy too. All right. I'd love to support you just like you guys are supporting me. And that's my marching orders for today. Last thing is, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter. We'll leave that in the show notes down below. Our girl, Bethany, is doing a banger job sending out those newsletters Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's a Monday motivation, a Wednesday what's new, and then a Friday recap for all the stuff that we're putting out. It's so helpful. I mean, people are loving it. It's a lifeline. We can't be more thankful that she's putting all that together and quarterbacking that. So punch in your email. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to sell you on anything. We don't sell the list, nothing like that. It's just literally a link from us to you to be able to keep you guys in the loop, what's going on in your business and in your industry. So, all right, guys, that's what I got for today's show. We're going to kick it back over to Marty, Mr. Producer, and we'll catch up with you guys here on the next one.
We're excited to announce that the Launchpreneur Academy Live 2022 event replay is now available exclusively at launchpreneuracademy.com. I'm Mr. Producer, and if you were unable to make it to our annual live event in Novi, Michigan this past November, we've got you covered. Get instant access to the live speeches and keynotes from this amazing event and take in tons of knowledge and information from some of the biggest leaders and business owners in the green industry. Hear insights from Mark Bradley, Troy Clogg, Paver Pete, James Mansky, and so many others. These 9 speeches are guaranteed to motivate, educate, and inspire you to elevate your game. Start listening now to the Launchpreneur Academy Live 2022 event replay at launchpreneuracademy.com, and we'll leave a link for you in the show description.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.